2017 Conference USA Kickoff presented by Under Armour. One of the great stories coming into the 2017 season is the return of UAB football. And joining us, the head coach, Bill Clark, my good buddy. Good seeing you again.
Good to see you, Ron.
Finally, we get to talk about football, huh?
It's good. Good to be back.
Also joining us, Chris Slugger. I still almost blew it. Not spelled that way. Offensive lineman, and also Shaq Jones, one of the 13 remaining players from the final season of UAB football before it came back. Did you ever think this day would come, Bill?
It was a long time coming, no doubt.
You know, you and I were just sharing that I was in your office right before the program was shut down, and you had all the plans laying on desks, and you were all excited about the future of UAB. Take me back to the day they said it's over and what you felt.
Yeah, you know, that's a day I try not to go back to, but I mean, I think that's history. It's real history, and it was tough. It was awful. Now, what happened from there, we got guys that went and did great things. You know, they went across the country. We had a few guys like Shaq here. At the time, he didn't believe that it was good that he had an injury, but it really worked out well. You know, that he was injured. He had to rehab there, which kept him around UAB, which allowed us to keep him. So that was good. But from that happening to the people fighting and bringing this program back to, you know, what's it look like? How are we going to recruit to facilities, et cetera, which I'm sure you'll talk about, but tons of things.
I want to bring that up because the city went out and raised about $43 million to help bring back the program. You have the Legacy Pavilion, the UAB Football Operations Center. You got a $22 million facility that's probably going to be completed in September, I guess.
No, maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow? That'll work. That'll work.
Yep.
The fact that UAB's facilities, and I'll be honest, they were awful.
They were awful.
You know, for a Division I team, to have this now, that has to be pretty special for the players, too.
It is, and I think anytime you get anything new, but to come from where this group has come from, and I said this, UAB's a great school. Birmingham's this great city that's being revitalized, and now we're doing the same thing on campus, the most growth in the history of UAB, and now we've got a commitment to football. And there's other things that are going to happen, but you can see it's tangible. We get to use it every single day. In fact, we're getting our final inspection today, so the players will get to see it tomorrow. So a lot of great things going on.
When you got the call that they're bringing the program back, you were probably elation, but also, oh my goodness, I've got to start planning. Walk us through that sequence.
Well, I think once that time frame of what am I going to do, and I think a lot of that I'm getting players getting them sent to other schools and jobs from my coaches, and really that time ended. You know, I made the decision to stay and see what happened. Really right before that announcement, there was a question asked by one of my foundation members, Tommy Brigham. He called me up and said, Coach, we will do this if you stay. When I returned with, I will stay if we do it right.
Right.
And that's kind of the commitment we made, that group, you know, Haddon Smiths and all those guys that did that. We decided we were going to do this thing correctly in our administration, and to be where we are now, you know, that was a lot of hard work. But like you said, how do we recruit? Who do we convince to come here and play? And, oh, by the way, we want you playing in 2 years. You know, are you kidding me? You know, so tons of things have happened since then, but we had to get a plan.
Well, you know, it's tough, I'm sure, to tell coaches. Their first question is, are you sure this program's going to stay?
Right.
And second, oh, yeah, by the way, we have to practice this whole year, but we're not playing.
Yeah, so that was a pretty good sales job, I think we did. But, you know, these guys, you know, now thank God they're on the other end of it. But we had to think in segments. Let's get well. Let's come in here and train. Let's get our academics up. Let's, you know, each one of us had a story, and hopefully we were smart about how we practiced. But those guys did it. They bought in, they believed, and now they can taste it. You know, it's you know, I still remember we have that countdown clock, and I looked up one day and it said 500-something days, and I'm like, now why do I have this up here? I'm reminding them how much work they got to do.
Just to tell you, kind of give you an example of what this team went through in 2016, they had a full fall training camp, had 2 scrimmages. One was August 29th, then practiced 3 times a week during the season, another scrimmage on October 20th. Then you had the spring game this year. 8,000 people showed up. How special was that?
I tell you, when those buses pulled up and those people were lined, it was unbelievable. I mean, you know, it was better than I hoped. I mean, you're talking about April. I think it was April 1st.
April 1st.
Beautiful day. They could have been at the lake. They came to the spring game and great crowd, great excitement. You know, obviously we were televised that day, so it was a neat day.
Linebacker Shaq Jones also joining us. Played all 12 games in 2014, 50 total tackles and an interception. Why did you stay?
The man beside me. When he committed to the program, he told me he was staying. I pretty much made up my mind that I would stay. You know, he's a great mentor, and I love him to death. So he's the ultimate reason why I stayed.
But it had to be hard. Western Michigan, Western Kentucky, Marshall, just 3 schools that came knocking on your door, and you had to tell them no. Was that hard for you?
For a little bit. I mean, I do have a family at home that I like to stay close to. I have a son that I love dearly, so being able to be accessible to him meant a lot to me. So, but the guys, like you said, the schools, Western Kentucky, Western Michigan, Marshall, the reason I took a visit to those schools because, like I said, the guy beside me is a great person, and I've seen bits of him in each one of those coaches. You know, Coach Holliday was a seasoned veteran coach that, you know, ran things kind of like the way Coach Clark did, and Coach Flick was, you know, real young and energetic, and I liked the way, you know, he proceeded, you know, and then Coach Brom was a person that we had at UAB before, so I was familiar with him. So those were the reasons I looked into those schools, but ultimately, I mean, they were so far away from my family, and I love being accessible with my son. So, you know, with Coach Clark staying at UAB and being able to be close to my son was the ultimate deciding factor for me to stay at UAB.
Who called you to tell you that the program's coming back?
I got a call, which is strange. I actually getting off of work that day. I haven't watched the news or anything like that. A reporter from West Kentucky called me. He was just like, "Hey, Shaq, the program has been reinstated at UAB. Are you still planning on being a Hilltopper?" I was like, "No, sir. I'm a Bill Blazer." No. So, yeah, once I got the news through a reporter, and then I knew right away, like once he said the programs that being restated, I was like, yeah, I'm going to stay. I'm going to be a Blazer no matter how long it takes. It's, you know, the ultimate prize will be when we actually return.
Once again, 13 players returned from the team that was on that squad the final year. Chris, I want to talk to you, offensive lineman Chris Slugger. When you hear these stories, do you realize you're part of something very special this start of the season?
Yes, I do realize I am being part of something special, and it just is something to be great down here, to play at the highest level and to play for Coach Bill Clark, who I've never experienced but has changed my perspective on football because of all the things that he does for us and how we train, how we practice, and everything that he does. Was
it a tough sell for you to come to UAB?
No. I mean, I wanted to play at the highest level, and they were coming back, so it was like the perfect opportunity to come down here and play, and then just like loved it ever since I've been down here.
And everybody started pretty much, Bill, on the same level because you got a new offense, a new defense. How tough was it to try to get the offense going from scratch, or was it a good thing?
You know, there was some good things and there were some really tough things. I think the best and worst thing about game day is the pressure. And I tell these guys, you know, they don't video these games for nothing. Right. You know, all these people, you know, there's not, hey, we'll see you again at the next time. No, there's one game a year, and they keep it forever, which is why it's so special. I mean, that's the pressure. Well, that was hard to simulate in spring of 2 years ago, and even in last fall. I mean, we're sitting here saying we're getting ready for this year, but that was tough, and for those guys to fight and work. But we had our work cut out to try and create that urgency. So, you know, I think some of those were good things that we got to start the slate clean, and yet there were some things that were really tough about that. And the good news is I've seen us tick, 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 and by the end of spring, I think we had taken some good steps. Obviously, you know, when we get started up on the 31st, we're going to hopefully see a whole new group.
We only have a few minutes left. Give me names to watch on offense.
Well, I think you've got 2 quarterbacks, A.J. Erdley, who was, you know, at Middle Tennessee years ago, and, you know, he's come out as our leader. Tyler Johnston, who was the player of the year in the state of Alabama, is going to be very good. I hate to name guys. Obviously, you've got Slugger. I think we've got some really good guys up front. James Davis is another O-lineman. Our left tackle is going to do some really special things. Running backs, we moved a linebacker over to running back Donnie Lee. And so we've kind of by committee right now with James Noble and Kalen Heath and Lucius Stanley. There's a group. And then we've got some receivers. Colin Lisa was a guy we had that ended up Buffalo, came back a great receiver. But I can name all those guys. I think every one of them's got a chance to be really good.
You probably don't have time for it, but will it be an emotional day on September 2nd when you run out on the field? Shaq, I'll keep that thought, but I want to get Coach Clark first.
Yeah, I don't think there's a doubt. You know, we talk about who we're playing for. I think we've always talked about that in football. That's why this game, any game, is so great. But the people that got you there, you know, he talked about his son, his family that supports him, Chris, his family. I want those guys to know it. Now we've got this city who gave out of their own pockets. I mean, this was money we raised. $44 million from our community has been raised for our program. I want these guys to know that. That's who they're playing for, and we want to put something special out there. So it's going to be an emotional day.
Shaq, when I started that question, you nodded your head emphatically. For you, how emotional will it be that day?
It's really exciting. It's been a long time since I played a football game. So to actually be able to go out and compete against someone other than my teammates is going to be great.
So 2014 was the last you played?
Yes, sir.
33 months on it'll be. Not that I'm counting. But it has to be.
He should be a little hungry, shouldn't he?
Yeah, I'd say so. I always told him he looked bigger than he did when I met him a few years ago.
Right.
Much bigger. But,
That's right.
And, Chris, one final question for you. How excited is it to be a part of an inaugural program? Because nobody can say that nowadays.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting, especially when you walk out and you look up in the stands and you see all those people that have given into this program. You just know that you got to give back to them. So we're going to do everything that we can to give back to them and let them know that it was worth every penny for giving in the program.
I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you.
Bill,
Thank you, my
it's
friend.
been a long journey, my
Yes.
friend.
Good to see you.
Count them all joy, right?
Amen.
All right. We'll be back with more Conference USA Kickoff, sponsored by Under Armour when we come back.